New facts finally revealed. Who would have thought that, behind Jungkook's viral mother's harsh reprimand, Taehyung's heroic act that managed to save his best friend from a major crisis was hidden? What exactly happened? Why is HYB so angry at Jungkook? And what did Taehyung do secretly to make Jungkook's mother unable to contain her emotions? Do you believe that one word can change everything? You shouldn't have done that. The words that came out of Jungkook's mother's mouth on a tense night, heard between the noisy voices of the fans, as if cutting the silence that hung between two friends who had been known inseparable, John Jungkook and Kim Taehyung. But what did Jungkook's mother really mean? What happens behind the scenes until the woman who has been known to be calm and support her child's career finally raises her voice with a tone as soft as steel that holds the deepest worries and wounds? The incident was not just an emotional moment between a mother and child, or just a moment of misunderstanding that could be resolved in a single sentence of apology. The incident became a turning point, not only for Jungkook, but also for his friendship with Taehyung, who turned out to hold a much bigger story than the public knew. And now, after a long silence, everything is revealed. Slowly but surely, when a CCTV footage leaked and showed Jungkook's actions that were considered inappropriate by internal HYB, netizens were excited. Some accuse, some defend, but all agree that this time, the problem is bigger than usual. Jungkook was seen to be involved in a moment that made his position in the eyes of management falter. But strangely, not a single official clarification came out from the agency, a silence that only worsened the atmosphere. But who would have thought, behind all that, Taehyung had moved faster than anyone? Evidence after evidence is now emerging, and one of the most surprising is the statement from Jungkook's own mother, who finally admitted that it was precisely Taehyung who was the reason why her son did not receive severe sanctions from the agency. Yes, Taehyung, who has only been seen smiling in every interview session, apparently keeps the burden and big decisions he takes alone, without revealing it to anyone. Even to Jungkook himself. What exactly did Taehyung do? Why did he have to intervene secretly? And the most touching, why does he not want to receive praise for his actions? Internal sources say that Taehyung is the only member who knows the true context of the incident. He knew that Jungkook's actions at that time were not intentional, but because of tremendous pressure from outside that could not be revealed to the public. The pressure was rooted in fatigue, stress, and internal conflict that Jungkook had harbored alone. And when everything is about to collapse, Taehyung decides to take over the responsibility. In an unofficial report leaked to fan media, Taehyung is said to have met HYB's representatives in person. He filed clarifications, brought evidence, and even reconstructed the incident with the help of other witnesses to show that there was no ill will in Jungkook's actions. In fact, Taehyung openly told the agency that if they still wanted to impose sanctions, then he was willing to take part in the consequences. Taehyung's words when mentioned made one of HYB's executives speechless. If you punish Jungkook for one act that he didn't even realize was due to the pressure that we all know, then punish me too. Because I let him go through it alone. The action then reached Jungkook's mother's ears. At first, he was angry. Not to Taehyung, but to himself and also to his son. Angry because, as a mother, she felt that she failed to understand the pressure felt by Jungkook. And when he finds out that the only person standing up to defend his son is Taehyung, he can't help his emotions. The crying broke out. And from there, the word was born. You shouldn't have done that, he tells Taehyung, not as a rebuke, but as an expression of love and guilt. Taehyung was too self-sacrificing. I don't think a friend should have to bear such a burden. But this is precisely where the strength of their bond lies. Jungkook, initially devastated by his mother's anger, eventually learns the truth of everything that happened. He only learns later that Taehyung has risked his own position to save himself. And from that moment on, their relationship changed. It's not getting deeper, it's getting deeper. In one of the radio interviews that went viral because of the emotional footage, Jungkook referred to Taehyung as a person who knows me even more than myself. He couldn't finish his sentence without shedding a tear. Now the public is wondering, why did all this come to light only now? Why did HYB choose silence? And was there any other motive behind the agency's seemingly ambiguous attitude towards Jungkook at the time? It was speculated that HYB had actually received a full report from Taehyung, but chose to keep the case tight-lipped to preserve the group's image. Some also said that Taehyung's actions made HYB unable to do much without worsening their own image. But behind all those possibilities, one thing is certain. Without Taehyung, this story could have ended very differently. Surprisingly, some of the staff began to dare to speak anonymously. One of them said that in an internal boardroom, Taehyung's name was referred to many times as the bridge that keeps BTS intact. That sentence seems to be proof that Taehyung is not just an idol with an alluring visual and voice, but also an emotional leader who knows when to step up and when to stand still. Now, the army was divided between emotion and anger. Haru, because they finally know who is standing behind the scenes when the storm comes. And the anger for this fact had to be hidden for so long, to the point that Jungkook almost lost everything in the eyes of the public. Some hashtags began trending, such as hashtag Thank You Taehyung and hashtag Protect Jungkook, as a form of support and gratitude from fans who finally understood how fragile and strong BTS members are at the same time. There were also voices that began to demand transparency from HYB, asking that in the future there would be no more events where one member had to shoulder everything himself, let alone secretly. Meanwhile, Jungkook and his mother's relationship improves. In a private fan meeting, Jungkook shared a letter he wrote to his mother, some of which was leaked to the media. In it, she wrote, "Thank you for loving me the way you do, even though sometimes I can't understand it. And thank you for loving Taehyung the way I love him." This story is not over. But one thing is clear, friendship tested in a storm is not a weakness, but a strength that not everyone is capable of. And among the thousands of lines of praise that can be given, perhaps only one is the most representative of them all. Taehyung didn't just save Jungkook, he saved them all, and it is precisely here that the most emotional chapter begins. After a brief clarification from one of HYB's trusted internal sources that eventually spread to the fan community, another surprising fact emerged. The decision to reprimand Jungkook was actually almost final. No kidding, sanctions for postponing solo promotional activities, cutting airtime, and even restrictions on interaction with the media are already on the list prepared by executives. All because of one incident that was judged, not in the image, even without a clear context. But when the defense documents filed by Taehyung come in, along with the personal recordings he kept, the atmosphere of the meeting room changes drastically. According to the staff, the footage shows an emotional conversation between Jungkook and a BTS crew member, in which Jungkook said that he had a mild panic attack that night, but insisted on performing because he didn't want to burden the other members. A moment that was not captured by the main camera, but was accidentally recorded by Taehyung, who is saving footage for behind-the-scenes content. Did Taehyung deliberately record just in case? No. That is precisely what makes all this even more heartbreaking. The video was shot because Taehyung wanted to capture Jungkook's struggle, not knowing that one day it would save his best friend from a reputation meltdown. When all the evidence was gathered, one disturbing question arose among the public. Why did HYB, who had been claiming to protect the artist, not immediately explain the case? Why did they allow the public to form their own opinions, even allowing Jungkook to be branded negatively by the media for weeks? The answer, according to some observers of the Korean entertainment industry, lies in a crisis strategy that is too cautious. HYB is said to be too afraid to open the facts because she is worried that it will actually make the problem bigger. But unfortunately, in their silence, the damage is done and Jungkook feels it the most. This news spread like wildfire in the middle of a dry forest. Fans reacted, the army rallied, and Taehyung's name began to be mentioned in a much larger narrative than just member visual. He's not just a friend. It's not just friends. He's not just a teammate. He is the silent protector who stands behind the screen, harboring unsolicited wounds and returning them in the form of silent actions that change everything. Behind it all, Jungkook did not remain silent. After he learned of Taehyung's entire chain of events, from protecting his good name, risking his personal comfort, to facing management in person, Jungkook did one thing he rarely does in public: apologize and thank publicly. In a limited VLive session that was later quoted by many media, Jungkook only said one sentence while looking down deeply. "Hyung, if I ever hurt you for not knowing, I'm sorry. But thank you for staying here even when I fell." That's Senten. Suddenly, after all the heart-wrenching facts about Taehyung's role in saving Jungkook began to spread widely, an even bigger question arose amid the global community of fans. Where are the other members' voices? Why was Taehyung the only one who stepped in at that critical moment? And why is HYB still silent as if nothing had happened? The question did not come from suspicion, but from deep concern. ARMY, known as the most loyal and empathetic fan community, began tracing one by one the old interactions of BTS members, hoping to find a glimmer of hidden answers. And what they found was much more emotional than imagined. Jimin, who has been known to be the closest to Jungkook and Taehyung emotionally, suddenly uploaded a black and white photo on his Weverse account with a short caption, "I see you struggle, but sometimes we can only hope there are more courageous than us." The phrase immediately caught the attention of the public. Many interpreted that Jimin may have known something was wrong, but he did not have the power or access to voice it. Or maybe Jimin chose to be silent for the sake of not aggravating the situation that was very sensitive. Clearly, the sentence signifies feelings of guilt and deep admiration for what Taehyung has done. Suga, who is known to be wise and rarely expresses his feelings openly, then followed up with a more frontal statement during an appearance on a recently re-aired Japanese radio show. "Sometimes what you think is strong is actually holding back tears. And the one you think is too calm is the one who secretly saves everything." That one sentence is enough to get an emotional wave going on social media. ARMY begins to reassemble the pieces of the puzzle. Taehyung's quiet demeanor for some time, Jungkook's tired face behind the scenes, and now, a tacit acknowledgement from the other members that finally confirms it's all real. All the wounds are there. And all the rescues really happened. Then what about Jin, the eldest Sang-hyung who just finished his military service and returned to the entertainment world with great pressure? At an Echo Project press conference a few days after the issue went viral, a reporter directly asked about the incident, and Jin's reaction was unexpected. At first, he was silent. Silent for almost 15 seconds. Then, in a firm but emotional tone, he answered, "I know too late. And I hate that. But it made me angry the most, is how we all trust the system too much, to the point of forgetting that we ourselves must take care of each other." Those words were immediately met with a roar of tears from fans around the world. Jin, who is usually witty and full of laughter, appears this time as an older brother who regrets not being there when his sister almost collapses. He doesn't blame anyone, not insinuating HYB directly. But the sentence is piercing enough to open the eyes of all parties. BTS is not just a group. They're family. And one family should not let one of its members fall alone. The vocal line is finished. Now the spotlight turns to the rap-line. J-Hope, who is currently serving his military service, could not immediately be reached for comment. But his social media admin team shared a painting he made, and it shook ARMY's emotions even deeper. The painting shows two figures standing with their backs to each other in the rain, with an umbrella covering only one of them, while the other remains standing outside, soaking wet. Under the painting, J-Hope's handwriting. "Sometimes you have to get wet alone, so that others can still survive." The ARMY is speechless. They know who is meant, and they know who is willing to get wet. Then how did HYB react? Ironically, until this news is written, there has not been a single official statement from HYB regarding this case. Even when the public began to raise the hashtags #HYBSpeakUp and #WeDeserveTheTruth, the agency still chose to silence all rumors with one standard sentence: "We do not comment on the internal affairs of our artists." The responses were flat, cold, and painful. Now it's all back to the ARMY. They demand transparency. They asked HYB to no longer treat their artists as mere promotional tools. They want the BTS members, who have given their entire lives to music, art, and fans, to be treated as human beings. As the souls can get tired, could fall. They also have a right to be protected. Will HYB answer? I don't know. One thing is for sure. Without Taehyung's courage, the world might never have known that Jungkook was nearly destroyed behind the smile he was forced to display, and when all this passes, there will be one name that continues to be remembered. Not because she appeared on stage in the most striking costume, not because the visuals graced New York billboards, but because he chose to stand in the dark to keep the light of those he loved, Taehyung. It's more than just an idol. It is clear that friendship can save the world.